Evolutionary lives on stagnation. Charles Darwin wrote the book The Origin of Species, in which he describes the formation of new species of living beings through natural selection as a result of the struggle for existence. Darwin's theory shows that evolution proceeds step by step, constantly, and more or less evenly. A new theory of the evolution of the living world has shown that evolution occurs in leaps and stagnations, and not evenly, as Charles Darwin discovered. Archaeological evidence for the existence of intermediate species is very poor, because the intermediate species could only exist during the creation of stable species, of which they were necessary stages, i.e., for a short time. Archaeological evidence has shown that evolution occurred at a rapid pace after catastrophes that occurred in history. Genetic variability goes that both in the direction of increasing the viability of living beings and in the direction of decreasing their viability. The emergence of genetic changes occurred within a single individual. This change was quickly erasing as a result of cross-fertilization and competitive struggle between individuals. It is a fact of the extinction of all intermediate varieties and species of any branch of the family tree proves that it was the intermediate varieties and species were weaker in natural selection not only than the following species, but also than their predecessors, the original and root species, but which survived and have remained to the present day. The very result of natural evolution have proven that the original species, contrary to Charles Darwin's theory, were stronger in natural selection than the intermediate varieties and species formed by them later. It was the intermediate species and varieties, despite their weakness in natural selection, and the necessary intermediate links, without which there could be no transition to stronger and more stable species. Such evolution, which took place with weaker intermediate species than their original species, could only be in the absence of a stronger opponents in the territory of change at that time. Such a state could only exist under special conditions, when there was a sufficiently large territory free from stronger organisms, including their predecessors, which could compete with the intermediate species. This territory should have had enough space for both the previous original species and the mutants, and in which they could develop calmly and freely without struggle. This state of such a free territory should have been maintained for a long time. The free area must be sufficient to accommodate all the modified individuals, which reproduce throughout the required time in geometric progression. Where could such large free areas used in my proof come from? They could only have existed when the Earth was not yet populated by this and other stronger species. or to form after catastrophes that took place on Earth. That is, the intermediate species were a weakened temporary bridge throughout which evolution jumped, but without which it could not proceed quickly enough. Here is the answer about the poor archaeological heritage of intermediate species. Such problems in explaining the reasons for the absence of fossil remains of some intermediate species of living beings led me to discover a completely different picture of passing evolution on Earth. I don't question Darwin's theory, but in the picture described by Charles Darwin, evolution could have proceeded according to a very complicated schemes. The time for evolutionary changes to occur would have been much longer, perhaps 100, 1,000 or even million times longer. Thank you very much for your interest to my work. Please subscribe to my blogs by clicking on the circle under the picture. This will help you to learn about completely new things in the future.